WLOO CATV's Resident Artist Program. I'm your host, Laron Cotting, and today we have the great good fortune to have nature photographer Jeff Peterick here with us.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. We are going to talk about Jeff's passion, which is photographing wildlife and natural areas. And we are going to learn a little bit about Jeff and why he does what he does. So, Jeff, how long have you been photographing nature and wildlife?
Well, 80 years? It's
Yes.
been 50 years anyway.
50 years.
Yeah, it's going back to when I was a kid. I first got into the photography as a kind of an adjunct to my wandering around the neighborhood where I was born and raised. We had rivers, and we had a river 2 blocks from our house, a lake 2 blocks from our house. We had nature preserves there, wetlands, everything, you know, a boy could want to wander in and study. And just found as I was doing that, I really found the photography as a way to kind of share the different things that I was discovering. And it's been that way forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
So, what was your first camera?
Oh boy, it was a Minolta DSLR. I mean, I think my first camera was probably Polaroid, playing around the house. Playing around the house. But my first 35 millimeter was an old Minolta, and it was pretty pricey at the time. I had just a small little lens with it, nothing too fancy, but it did the job for what I wanted. Got me started.
So, who did you show your photographs to?
Mom.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, I think she was always real good that way. You know, I'd come home all excited about something I had seen, something I had found. And now this is a mother of 8 kids, always busy, but she always had time to drop what she was doing and just sharing the excitement. And I think that was probably the greatest inspiration of all. That just kind of kept me going. We all want to please our moms. And I could always get a smile out of her and always the encouragement, so that was that.
That's great. So, because you had such a receptive environment at home and your mother was a good audience, that made you feel like you could pursue it, photography, and get a sense of that you were pleasing others with it.
Right, right. Yeah, because then she would even, if friends would come over, she would show them my photography. And everybody always just, oh wow, even, and whether it was spectacular or not, I think everybody was wanting to get in on inspiring this kid with a camera. So we did it.
I think that's important, and I understand our teachers often say that it's important to just accept whatever a child is doing artistically, and because that encourages their creative expression.
I agree, and you're right. It's whatever they are doing. I mean, I always kind of thought that the important thing for a parent is to put everything and anything in front of a kid and see what it is that they find interest in. It wasn't a slam dunk that photography was going to be a lifelong hobby for me or anything, but I was given the opportunity and something just clicked. It's really worked for me. For other kids, it might be watercolors, it might be music, it might be engine mechanics, who knows? Sure. But you just put the stuff there in front of them and they pick it up from there.
So, can you tell me what it is about your photography? What is it about taking a photograph of something that appeals to you so much?
It's the art. I mean, you take a look at a wood duck, and it's just perfect somehow. And it's just so fascinating that it's gone through all these eons of evolution to arrive at this perfect little thing with colors that you probably wouldn't put together yourself, and yet it's just beautiful. Now, to be able to document that, to me, is like creating a painting, to be able to actually get it. And there's a graphic artist, Robert Bateman, who is quite famous for painting realistic scenes with animals and birds and all that. And I was introduced to him at a pretty young age and fell in love with his work. And I guess I try to recreate the same kind of thing, because I'm not good at painting at all. So I try to recreate the same kind of thing with the photographs. Catch it just at the right moment and everything, and get it down to where people pick it up and they go, oh wow, you know? Yeah, I remember seeing one of those.
I've heard that photographers go through many different shots that they don't think are worth keeping. And so there's a selection process of choosing which photograph you want to keep and preserve and do more with it. Have you found that with your photographs?
Absolutely. I mean, I kind of laugh because on my hard drive at home, and this is just since I moved over to digital photography. Of course, I started with film. That was the state of the art back then, and then I moved into digital. So just for digital files, I've got 110,000 digital files on my computer. They're not all A-list, you know? but a lot of times I have a tough time throwing them out. As long as I've got the room, I keep these old files there. But yeah, you shoot 100 photos, 150 photos to find one that's really workable, you know, that you can play with. Or maybe a couple of different perspectives, you know, that you can work with. And then the rest you just jettison. But what I have found is, and I kind of enjoy this, is I will go back into those old files and I'll work on them a little bit. And there's one, in fact, that I just recently found, just was taken at Fayetteville Grove at night. And I was playing it, trying to get a shot of a full moon with a big bur oak in the foreground and everything. And the camera, well, it had to be the camera because it couldn't have been me.
Of course not.
No, of course not. The camera just couldn't quite get it to where what I wanted to see and all that, so I just let it go. I just recently went back to those files and I opened them up and I did everything I could to try and pull the details out of it, and I found nice stars, you know, that were looking good, found the full moon, but then here in the corner was a shooting star, you know. I would never have known, certainly didn't know it at the time I shot it, but it was a discovery in just going back and looking at these junk files. So I don't get rid of anything until I have to.
As long as you have the storage, why not?
That's right, that's right.
So you mentioned Fayetteville Grove, and Fayetteville Grove is a sanctuary and nature preserve south of Waterloo on Highway 89 that has areas open to the public. And Fayetteville Grove is a wonderful place to photograph nature. In fact, how I first became acquainted with Jeff's work was his tremendously beautiful photographs taken at Fayetteville Grove, and then he would put them up on Facebook for his friends to enjoy. So one of the photographs, if I can show this now,
sure.
This is a photograph of bur oaks at Fayetteville Grove.
That one was taken as Fayetteville Grove, every year they have a sunrise hike on New Year's Day, which has got to be kind of a tradition there, coordinated through Madison Audubon. And it's something that I've done now for a number of years myself. This particular photo was taken on New Year's Day in, I believe 2016, maybe 2017. And it's just a gorgeous sunrise, but it's a gorgeous area that I went to. I called it my refuge because it really was. I go there time after time after time and could always find something to shoot.
And you have some other photographs of New Year's hikes too, don't you?
Yes, I do. Let's see. We have this one right here. This is an oak savanna that David and Roger down at Fayetteville Grove have done a lot of work on, trying to get the oak savanna reestablished there. And that again was taken on a New Year's hike, I believe, in 2019. Just a little snow in the trees there, and I thought it just made for a nice picture.
I like the movement and the lines in the oak trees
Mhm.
and the branches.
Yeah, and the textures, you know,
Upward and sweeping and the textures.
and the textures of the bark and everything else, it just makes for a pleasant photo.
Are there any other photos of Fayetteville Grove that you would like to talk about right now?
Well, a lot of birds. I mean, probably the biggest or the most subjects that I have are birds in my photos. I mean, along with photography, I've also been a birder, and get into that. I believe I've got like 140 pictures of 140 different species of birds. Well, Fayetteville Grove really does attract a lot of warblers and waterfowl and hawks and other raptors and all that. So I would get into that down there, and I've had a lot of pictures that I've taken of different birds down at Fayetteville Grove.
Some of your pictures have found their way into calendars
Yeah,
and on the Jefferson County Tourism website.
yeah, and into Madison Audubon on their newsletters and whatnot, and yeah, they've gotten around a bit.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, they have. They sell themselves, so to speak.
Mhm.
So one of the more colorful or spectacular bird species at Fayetteville Grove are the sandhill cranes. And you had mentioned that you really enjoy photographing cranes.
I do. I love photographing cranes, and a lot of that really kind of got started here with the marsh just outside of town here, south of town, and then down into Fayetteville Grove. And that has really gotten to be, I think, for me, the sound of spring is when I hear that first sandhill crane. And that just thrills me, because cranes have been around just as they are since prehistory. So when you hear a crane calling, you're hearing something from prehistory. That just fascinates me, because it is so unique and wonderful. And then I got involved with International Crane Foundation, became a member there as well, and they've done a lot of work just preserving and protecting cranes throughout the world, and they are the ones that are basically responsible for bringing the whooping crane back from just the edge of extinction. I mean, whooping cranes, I think they were down to like 8 or 10 cranes in the whole world at one point, and they're now up over 800. And most of it's due to the work that the Crane Foundation has done. Well, they're located in Baraboo, and they've got all 15 species of cranes that there are, they've actually got at their site in Baraboo. So I've gotten over there to take some pictures as well of just these cranes, because they do fascinate me, and they are beautiful.
So let's choose some to share, shall we?
Sure, let's start with my favorite.
Your favorite. Oh, yes, yes, that's your favorite. Okay, this is Jeff's favorite crane picture.
Crane photo, it is. That is
Favorite crane photograph.
a black-necked crane. They're from Africa. They actually are one of the few that is not on the endangered, or the highly endangered list, but they are beautiful. And this one here I took in Baraboo, just stunningly gorgeous bird.
You have another view of this
Yeah.
same bird, I think.
Yeah, the same bird.
The head-on view. I like this picture because it's in your face, so to speak.
In your face is right, you know. It's but I think that's what I like about birds is they're so flamboyant. I mean, they have all these things that, like, who would think a spiky head, you know? But it's just beautiful, and that's been developed, you know, over all these years in evolution, and I think it looks stunning.
Well, I agree with you. I do. Okay, so which photograph would you like to talk about next here?
Actually, this is of the whooping cranes.
Okay.
And this this was taken in the wild. And as I say, I mean, it's just amazing that these birds have been brought back from the edge of extinction. And we're very fortunate here in that we get a lot of the cranes will summer at Horicon here and up in Necedah. And it's one of the few spots in the world where you can actually go see them in the wild. And so I've spent a lot of time, particularly on Horicon, because it's so close by, to get these pictures of these cranes. Beautiful bird. I mean, they're just magnificent. And they will migrate every fall down south. The cranes from here generally go to like Florida and South Georgia and all that, but then they come back in the spring, every spring.
And we see them coming through Waterloo. They've shown up at Fable Sanctuary, Monashaw River, the marshes.
Yep, and they have their favorite spots to stop on the road.
Okay. And is this, did you say this was an immature whooping crane?
I believe that is an immature whooping crane. It may be a sandhill, but regardless, it's an immature bird, and the whooping cranes do breed here in Wisconsin in the summertime, and this bird was taken at the sanctuary.
I like the way you capture the motion in the wildlife that you photograph, and we'll see more of these photographs as we go on here.
Mm-hmm.
You have some great
Yeah,
shots of moving animals.
Yeah, I mean, that's really been kind of a fun part of the game for me, is capturing birds in flight. Technology in the cameras has gotten to the point where you can do it. There's some trick to it, and all, but it's really fun to capture these birds in flight, and you get just a whole other look at them, because so many of them, I mean, they're here, they're gone, and you don't see anything. But if you can capture it on film, you get a really unique look at these birds.
And we get into shutter speed.
Oh, yeah.
And
Aperture.
special equipment and aperture.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite combination right now that you use?
Usually I try to, if I'm doing birds in flight, I usually will set my camera at aperture priority. So I will choose an aperture of probably about 7.1, and then the camera will make the adjustments from there as to what should work and what doesn't. And that seems to work best. I'll go with, of course, the lowest ISO, but on these cameras now you can really go to 1600 ISO, and in post you can actually get a picture out of it that looks really well. So the cameras have gotten to the point where they will do a lot of the work for you, but it's still up to the photographer to frame the picture and make the selections that need to be made, and try and get it done right. When it works, it works. When it doesn't, yeah, well.
Then it doesn't, then you try again, I guess.
Yeah.
So in photographing wildlife in particular, I understand it takes a great deal of patience.
It does.
Being still.
And it took, well, I'm still learning that, I think, that sometimes the best you can do is to do nothing and wait for whatever's going to happen to come to you. And some of the best pictures that I've gotten have been when I've just sat and just been still and just wait to see what happens, you know. That's where the fox will come out of the woods, you know, and not realize you're there. Or the birds will land, you know, within a short distance, not knowing you're there. So it's something that I really needed to kind of learn, to not be in a hurry to cover a lot of territory, just be available for what's going to happen in the moment.
I like that. I like that. It's nature. It's
Yeah.
unpredictable.
Yeah, and so then the work is to become just part of nature yourself, and just be available. So.
Could you tell us about this photograph?
Oh, this is the photograph.
Yes.
This is the photograph of the juvenile whooping crane.
There we go.
That's where I was getting confused, because that is a sandhill crane on that one. This one is a photograph taken at the foundation
That's as close
of
as
a
it
juvenile whooping crane. That was born earlier this year, in fact. And this was just probably 3 weeks before they went to they took off for the flight south. So it was getting right to the point where I was going to be able to make that trip all the way from here south with its parents.
What I like about this, and what I like about your photographs in general, is there's no blurriness. He's moving the wings.
Mm-hmm.
The wings are, the juvenile is moving its wings. There's no blur. It's crystal clear caught in the moment.
And that's, of course, a function of the shutter speed. And so you have to work with fast speeds and everything. But then you have to really work it in post to get the colors right and all that. And you have to make sure that you still got the lens slow enough that it can catch the bird, you know. So it works.
So you have a selection from your 110,000, did you say?
Yeah.
That you brought here today. Could we kind of get a tour from you through your gallery of photographs that you brought?
Sure.
So that's beautiful, Jeff. That looks like a painting.
Yeah, this is and it is in Watertown, right near Tivoli Island,
Okay.
and which is another place that I've spent a lot of time. Good birding site, and just a lot of good colors and things to work with. I mean, we've talked about a lot of the birding pictures that I've done, but I've also gotten into a lot of the landscapes, and then even into maybe what you might call some impressionism, where everything isn't quite so sharp and tacked, but it's the colors and textures and getting some of these things done. That's kind of what I tried to do with this one. And it was, of course, fall, so we had the nice leaves, and I thought that the colors just really worked well together, and they really kind of are evocative of what it is to be in the woods on a nice fall day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they certainly are. Certainly are.
So another one was the mallard. I mean, mallards are ubiquitous. You know, you can't find a patch of water without finding a mallard on it. And but it's kind of fun, and I've shot a lot of mallards because the colors in them are so vibrant when they are showing the badge on their wing. And this one here was just, I thought, kind of a nice touch, was with a focus for me more on the water. I believe it was even the same tree in this picture that I had taken that was reflected in the water, and it made the water gold, and it just made for kind of a nice restive picture of a very common mallard. So that was the one that I liked there. Let's see what else we have here. There, that's another one that I took with just the geese. I mean, if there's anything more ubiquitous than the mallard, it is the Canada goose. And we all know that as you go golfing and you're stepping on cigars, you know, that's thanks to these Canada geese. They are all over. But this picture here I really liked when I saw these geese floating on this water with this real gold reflection.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it just really kind of takes you right into it and causes you to really focus on the geese. They are a beautiful bird.
They are a beautiful bird, I agree.
Yeah. So we kind of got that. That was my intent here, was to try and capture that and highlight it and put them in a little gold. Well, and then this one here was taken just outside Waterloo here, and down by the marsh, and just a sunrise photo. And I've done a lot of sunrises. I really enjoy getting out in the morning. There just isn't anything like a sunrise with a cup of coffee and sit back and get your day started right. And so I spent a lot of time like on the marsh, and this here was right on the edges of town of Waterloo marsh down here, and just another sunrise that.
I can almost hear the birds singing when I do that.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the best time to hear the birds singing.
Mhm.
It's first thing in the morning, you know. So and I do enjoy that. I don't know. So then another area around here that I've spent a lot of time as well is just down in Corth Park, down in Lake Mills.
That is a lovely photograph.
Yeah, that's just and it's a common finch. I mean, it's a house finch, but again, with the different vegetation in the tree and all that, it kind of frames it nicely, and so many times. I mean, I'll take this and I'll show it to somebody and they'll say, well, I've never seen one, you know? Because they present, if you're not really paying much attention, as just this small little brown bird that comes in and flies in and then it's gone, and you're none the wiser for it. But if you stop and you take a look, you'll find that it's a finch, maybe well, cardinals do stand out. But you can have a finch, you can have a warbler or something like that, and it first appears as just this little brown thing, but if you really stop, take a look, if you happen to have a pair of binoculars or something, far better, and you'd be surprised at the variety of the birds and just how pretty they are. So that's what I try and capture when I take these still shots, these portraits of these birds. And that one was taken down in Corth Park. This one was taken right on Rock Lake. And it's not real common, but usually a few times during the year you can catch loons down on Rock Lake. And I happened to be there on a morning when this one was floating around. And this was right at daylight, so the lighting wasn't real good. So I kind of got this loon in silhouette, and with just a real spare background. You can just see the loon is moving, just with the lines in the water. But otherwise it just makes for a real nice restive look. And there's no mistaking that it is a loon, you know?
No, there isn't, and I like the way you said that it's a portrait
Right.
of a bird. And although this is a very simple picture, what it captures is that head tilt.
Yeah.
You can see something black on the water, but there's that large bill and the head tip.
Yeah.
That's a loon.
Right, and there is no mistaking it. I mean, it's the same size as a cormorant, and there's times where you'll see a cormorant, you're thinking, you know, is that a loon? But you see a loon, you know it's a loon.
It's got that.
So, let's see. But yeah, Corth Park down there is a wonderful place to visit, and it's so close by here. And again, they attract a lot of birds. Good opportunity to see lots of waterfowl down there. I mean, you'll see all manner of ducks and sandhill cranes you'll see there on occasion, and raptors. I mean, it's just a good place to go to just sit. Again, just sit, take a look around, see what's available. So.
I think we're pretty woodland there too, and they're right on the lake.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of different habitats for birds to come to, so a lot of different kinds of birds.
Oh, that's a great place for a sunrise, because the sunrise is up over Rock Lake there, and you're above the lake, so you'll get the reflection off the lake. And so yeah, you need to just grab a thermos, cup, sit on the edge, and wait for the sun to come up.
And a lot of people do.
And they do. I've encountered a lot of people down there, they really enjoy it. These are just some more still shots of other birds, that downy woodpecker. This one here, this, as I had mentioned earlier, it's kind of a coming together of a lot of different interests of mine. I had mentioned about the Impressionism and how I kind of like that. And this kestrel, Well, the kestrels are just an amazing looking bird to begin with. I mean, they're just kind of elegant. And I keep saying, you know, they're kind of the pretty little killers, because they are very, very efficient hunters. And they will hunt birds that are a little bit smaller than themselves. They'll hunt voles and mice and things like that. But they're just a beautiful little bird. Well, this picture here, I took it, and it was actually a little bit out of focus. And yet, as I got to looking at it, I'm thinking, you know, it really does give a good impression of that bird. And so I managed to get it printed, and I really like the result. Because the rest of the scene, even the twigs and everything are kind of monochromatic, and then there's this colorful little killer. So I like my kestrels. There's our blue heron.
There we are.
I have so many pictures of blue herons because they're just a fascinating bird. And particularly in the spring, when they're in their breeding plumage, is when they'll have the long trailing white feathers and everything is just crisp and wonderful about them. But they're around here quite a bit. You'll see them up and down the Monashaw here, doing their fishing and just kind of elegant. They're real ungainly in flight. I mean, they're just, you wonder how they manage to stay up. But there's a real elegant look to them when they're just out fishing and walking real slowly through your river, along the riverbanks.
Looking for something to spear.
That's right. So I think they prefer frogs.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah. So this was a picture actually taken at, I think I've got it down here as Garmin, but no, this one here I believe was at Corth Park. And it's, and couldn't get any closer with this one. It is a eastern meadowlark, and they are probably my favorite songbirds, I think, you know. Summer to me is hearing the meadowlark and kind of a melancholy flute playing as the soundtrack to just being out on a nice summer's morning. So, oh, there's a cropped version of it, and again, a very beautiful bird, but especially for their sound. I mean, it really is evocative of just a nice summer morning when you've got nothing to do but sit back and relax and enjoy your time. It's certainly nice to have a meadowlark there just to kind of accompany the moment. Well, this one is taken right here at Garmin Woods, right on the edge of Waterloo, and a bluebird, and they are great fun to photograph. They're just a pretty little bird, and everybody knows about the bluebird of happiness, and they really are. They're just happy little characters that are fun to get a picture of, and this picture captures it quite nicely.
April.
April, they'll be back.
April is for bluebirds.
It is for bluebirds. There are actually some that will overwinter. If people find them at their feeders throughout the winter, and it kind of seems that they get to know that they got a feeder that's reliable, they got water, they need heated bird baths, they find that, and they just might hang around for the winter. But otherwise, they do migrate, but they come back, and April is for bluebirds. And just to note, that picture was dark, but it's there, and it's a beautiful picture. So I really do like that picture, so we do need to include that one. This one I really enjoyed. This one was taken down at Fayetteville Grove, and Fayetteville Grove has a lot of boxes up for tree swallows. And this one was a baby sitting on top of the sign here. You can see mother coming. He's screaming to be fed.
Oh, the mother's in the background.
And mother's in the background, she's on her way. And I thought the whole thing with Wildlife Sanctuary just made for a story. And it's always kind of fun when you can tell a story with a picture.
Yes.
And this one works quite well in that regard.
Oh.
There's the little guy.
Uh-huh.
So, there. Here's another one that I really like. Again, blue heron. But this is one where I kind of intentionally wanted to blur it just to play with it. And I thought this turned out quite nicely as kind of an impressionist look at a blue heron again. And in fact, I titled this one On Point. It looks like a ballet,
Yes.
you know, happening on the water here. And you get a sense for, and you can see the head and see the face real well in detail. But the rest of it is just the blur of the color. And I don't even know how you would describe that color. It's almost a bluish gray, but it's somewhat unique, and I find it stunning. You know, I love blue herons, so they're a good subject for photographs.
Ooh.
There you go. We got who doesn't love a swan picture, you
Yes.
know? And these were taken up in Horicon. That Horicon does get visited by many different swans all summer long, and they raise their babies up there, and they're cygnets. And this was a picture that I managed to take. And going to what we had discussed earlier, this one here, I mean, I think I probably shot, I'll bet you 200 frames to finally get the one that I wanted where the heads were turned right on the babies, you know, and they were all in the picture. And
They won't pose for you.
they won't pose for you, but if you're patient and care to waste enough pixels, you can come up with a decent picture. And this one I really like. They are magnificent birds as well, just beautiful.
Oh, yes.
And there's what I was talking about, birds in flight. This is probably one of my favorites on the birds in flight. Again, the great heron, but you can really see the detail of the feathers. And this one was in breeding plumage in the spring, and so everything is, you know, the feathers are all there. They aren't all torn up and beat up,
Right.
as they will get to be as time goes on. But in the spring after molt, they are just incredibly beautiful birds.
Freshly molted, is that a Wanashaw River picture?
That is, in fact, that was taken over in Marshall on the lake at
The mill pond that they.
the mill pond,
Yeah.
where the river flows into the mill pond there, out of Deansville. That's where that picture was taken. And it's
Gorgeous.
Yeah, I like that one. I really do. Okay, this one I like. This common yellowthroat warbler, and you hear them very frequently in the summertime. If you ever get a chance to hear a recording of one, you'd say, oh yeah, I've heard that a lot. Rarely do you see them. They usually hang low in the weeds and everything. And this particular one was in Deansville, and I could hear it, and I thought, well, I'm just going to wait him out. So I sat, and I knew he was down in the grass, could tell just about where he was at, so I just waited him out. And at one point, he did come up and did some singing, and I managed to catch some pictures of him, and I thought they turned out rather nice. A beautiful bird again, and no bigger than a sparrow. There you go. That's just another picture of the same bird. But you can see he's singing, and it's a loud song for such a little bird. You'll hear him from quite a distance. That's a picture of the river where it flows into the lake there at Marshall.
Oh, that's a great pastoral section.
Yeah.
Oh, look.
Those are all from Marshall. And this was just trying to play with bordering on macro photography, just colors and textures, you know. Nature is just so incredible, the way it will paint things. I don't know why it would be very difficult to actually reproduce that, I think.
I think so.
So, and yet, nature does it all the time. There's a pastoral scene for you. That was, I believe that is outside Waterloo here. It might be Oregon, I'm not sure. Anyway, it's just kind of an iconic Wisconsin look.
Yes, it is, I agree.
With the red barn and the glacial moraine and lots of corn and a little bit of marsh. There you go. You may recognize this. And it's actually a picture taken just a few minutes before the other one I showed of the sunrise. But this is the area just outside of town here with railroad tracks and what I guess I would call dawn, just before the sun comes up. And I'm always fascinated. I mean, I'm always fascinated with sunrise. I've seen so many of them, but it happens so quickly. You know, it really gives you a sense for just how fast the Earth is spinning on its axis, because within just a couple minutes we'll go from this dawning like this to this full round sun up in the air. And I like to play with it, capture it.
The quality of the light at sunrise is magical to me.
It is. They call it golden hour, and for that reason, because it really is perfect light for photography. So the best photography, nature photography, is done, you know, usually right before dawn till maybe an hour after sunrise, and then again in the evening. That's golden hour again, probably an hour before sunset and into dusk there. But you're right. I mean, you really do get the warmer colors and a lot more to work with in trying to get a picture. It looks a lot more attractive. There's cedar waxwing is what we've got here, and this was at Tivoli Island. I remember taking this photo, and I'm trying to see if I can find the close-up. I know it's there. Yes, that's the cedar waxwing, and this is one where even all winter long, they'll travel in rather large flocks, and they're constantly chittering, so you always hear them, and yet, even if you're looking at them, you're seeing just this little brown little blob that's flying into the shrubs, and then they'll all take off in a big cloud and move on, and yet it's a stunning looking little bird when you get to looking at it. You can see the little bit of red in the wingtips there. And the mask, you know, it's rather dramatic. Looks like Lone Ranger or whatever.
Yes.
I mean, they are just beautiful little birds. And yet, to the naked eye, all you see is this little blob, you know, flying in, flying out, and it's gone. It's just another sparrow, you know, whatever.
And you catch it when it's still.
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
It actually is. It very
Because they move
much.
around a lot.
It very much is. I've even gotten a couple shots of them in flight, but
Yes.
but they're most beautiful as they're sitting. And again, I mentioned the red tips on the wingtips, but then on the tail you see the yellow tip on the tail. They're just amazing looking little birds. So I'm always fun to find them and then try and get them captured. But you are absolutely right. They don't sit still. They don't pose for very long.
No, they don't. Aren't those little red tips why it's called a waxwing?
I believe it is, because it does look like a real red wax.
It does.
Like a lipstick almost, like somebody took their lipstick out and painted them up. And again, I always ask, why? You know, why through natural selection did you come up with these little red wingtips, you know? But I think just because they thought it looked pretty. That has to be
Made
the
selection.
answer. It has to be the
Has
answer,
to be
you
the
know?
answer.
So, and then I've done, you know, quite a few other pictures. I've been to New York, and I've taken pictures of just buildings and the East River and the bridges and all that, and really enjoy that as well. And I can show an example here of one picture I took that I'm particularly pleased with, and that was a night shot. I was work as a truck driver, so I was traveling through Dubuque and took a side trip, got the camera out and caught the towboat just coming off the locks there at Dubuque, and got the tripod set up, got the camera on the tripod, got the settings where I wanted it to be, and caught the boat as it was just heading down the river. And due to the situation, the darkness and everything, the boat itself kind of turns out of focus, and yet the light is so clearly in focus, and where the light falls on the barges is clearly in focus as well. And I think for the colors and just the drama of it, it makes for a good picture.
It does. It catches a mood, I think.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I've been there, you know? That's what I hope people would say, the ones that have witnessed, you know, the boats working the river up and down all night long. It's like, yeah, I've seen that, and it is pretty.
Yeah, it really is.
So anyway, that's kind of where we've been at. So, just a whole lot of pictures, but, and a whole lot of nature. I mean, I just keep going back to it. And I find for myself, I really almost need it. It's become my meditation to just get out and sit and just really be in the moment and observe whatever nature cares to present to me on that particular day.
And it's beautiful.
Well, thank you.
It really is.
Thank
It really
you.
is beautiful.
I definitely enjoy it.
I understand that you're putting a website together?
I am. Should be up here within the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
But yeah, we're putting together a website, and they're going to be offering some of these images for sale, and kind of looking forward to getting into that, looking at even sharing with more people these images and my enthusiasm. And hopefully people get their oh wow.
We'll get there. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We will put a link up to your website at the end of our interview here, and viewers can go see for themselves.
Well, I just wanted to share one quote
Okay.
that is kind of incorporated into my website because it just really fits. And it's a quote.
Tell the camera.
Oh, it's a quote from Mary Oliver, who is one of my favorite poets, contemporary poet, and she wrote about nature and just really painted just beautiful pictures with her poetry. But she said that if I have any lasting worth, it is because I have tried to make people remember what the earth is meant to look like. And I guess as I move forward now with the website and trying to expand, you know, the people who get to see this work, that's kind of where my impetus is to document the nature that's there and the moments that are there, and to be able to share them with people so that people can enjoy them and recall for themselves that time when they were out and they had that oh wow moment. So that's where we're at.
Well, thank you. Thank you for doing that, and I want to thank you for coming here today.
Well, I sure appreciate you having me, and this has been fun. I always love talking about my photography.
And it's wonderful to hear. And we're going to wrap up our episode today. I would just like everyone to know that if you are a passionate, serious artist about something, or know someone who is, please contact us We'll be happy to feature you in an episode. This is intended to be an ongoing series featuring resident artists. And although Jeff does not live in Waterloo now, he has lived in Waterloo for many years, since 1983, I believe he said.
Right, yep.
So we want to feature resident artists in Jefferson County and the Waterloo area. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you again soon with another resident artist.